I'll recognize Mr. Timmons from South Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are here today to shine a light not only on the integrity of women's sports, but on how government-backed institutions, chartered by Congress, may be misusing that authority to push controversial policies that violate basic human rights and disregard their congressionally authorized mission. When an organization abuses authority delegated by the government, it is within the purview of this subcommittee, plain and simple. I realize my colleagues across the aisle don't understand that. USA Fencing is a national governing body for the sport of fencing in the United States, officially recognized under the Ted Stevens Olympic and Amateur Sports Act. That designation is not just ceremonial. It is a chartered monopoly backed by federal law and accompanied by special privileges and funding access. That status comes with an expectation that NGBs serve all athletes equitably, promote excellence, and adhere to national interests, not ideological crusades. Yet recent events raise serious questions about whether USA Fencing has abandoned its mandate, is wasting resources, undermining athletes, and jeopardizing the integrity of women's sports, all while flying under the flag of a federal endorsement. We've heard USA Fencing speak about inclusion, but what about transparency and fairness, especially toward female athletes like Stephanie? We are having this hearing for women's rights, and we know the difference between a man and a woman. That's why we are here. Stephanie Turner and Peyton McNabb's rights have been violated. What's worse is they have been violated by an entity operating under the color of federal law, an organization that bears the name of our great country as bestowed by Congress in 1978. And I can assure you that in 1978, the members that voted for this law would be horrified. They would be horrified that we have to have this hearing. Mr. Leifeld, you said earlier that the Ted Stevens Act prohibited you from discriminating against biological men that identify as women. What are you referencing?
Congressman, I may have misspoke. I don't recall saying that. Could you remind me specifically what my words were in that scenario,
specifically
sir?
said that the statute, that you were statutorily prohibited from telling transgender men that they are not allowed to participate in women's competitions.
Sir, I believe what I was referring to is a statute within the Ted Stevens Amateur Sports Act which prevents any NGB from being more restrictive than their international federation. We have consulted with very competent legal counsel.
Are you familiar with the executive order signed by President Trump right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Madam Chair, I'd like to submit this for the record.
Without objection.
So a couple things. One, this executive order prohibits all entities that receive federal funds, which I know you do not, of allowing transgender men to compete in women's sports. So that's basically your entire pipeline. Your main purpose is to be competitive, is to figure out who we're going to send to the Olympics, or one of your main purposes. Is that fair?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, so you have women that are participating in high school and in college, and they're never going to compete against transgender men because that's federally prohibited. And by the way, this executive order also says that the Secretary of State shall use all appropriate and available measures to see that the International Olympic Committee amends the standard governing. We're going to fix this, and you're lagging behind us fixing it. And what's going to happen is we're going to amend the Ted Stevens Act to literally, you're going to lose your federal charter. And I appreciate that you did adopt a contingent policy, but why do we have to do this? You're really creating a problem where no problem should actually exist. And if all this isn't enough, I'm going to just highlight something you had on your website. I mean, this is just pretty insane. What statutory or moral authority is granted to USA Fencing in its charter to determine who in our society is oppressed?
Congressman, forgive me, I can't.
Hey, this is on your website.
But if I could go back to something you were saying before, sir, about changing the law and what you were talking about with the executive order.
Correct, sure.
All right, thank you, sir. We will be prepared to pivot as soon as the Ted Stevens Amateur Sports Act changes.
You might get
the FIE, the
penalized
IOC.
more, I mean, I have a feeling that we're going to write the statute in a way that if this is a problem when the statute becomes law, we're probably going to have some additional clauses in there that removes rights and abilities. But look, I mean, you do you.
And we will follow the law, sir.
The law is going to be punitive. I can assure you of that. We're not going to let this stand, and it's going to get fixed. And anyways, I want to go back to this. So you say on your website that so Vietnam veterans are an oppressed group versus veterans. Why does a veteran of a war in Afghanistan or Iraq have how is a Vietnam veteran oppressed?
Sir, I've actually never seen this, but I want to be
It's on your
clear. We have an
website.
appreciation for all of our veterans. We have
Well-
many who have one individual who served our country admirably, was disabled by an IED in Iraq, and we very, very much
You need to delete
appreciate
this off your
The-
website.
all of our veterans, sir.
Without a, yeah, thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to enter something into the record.
Without objection.